Hello and welcome. My name is Sir Schmib, and I hope that you are having a beautiful day. I know I am, because this morning before work, my yearly sudden and immediate urge to play the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion kicked in, and I booted up my Xbox and downloaded Oblivion. All day at work, I was thinking about the game, and how happy I was that this yearly tradition had taken root, which got me thinking about why. You see, there are quite a few different games that this happens for with me. I'll just be walking around like a normal human one day, and next thing I know, I'll be overcome with memories of a certain title, and inevitably within a few days, I'll be well on my way into a playthrough. I see this kind of irresistible gaming urge take hold of people online all the time as well. People will always mention things like the annual Minecraft playthrough, or the 2-week period dedicated to modding and playing Skyrim. And I wonder, why do certain games call us back every so often like this? Is it just because we had a good time with them in the past? Well, I don't think that's the case. There's plenty of games that I loved playing, but I have never returned to, and probably never will. I realize that it falls down to a single trait that even some great games lack. That is, how easy a game is to pick up and start immediately having fun. So, what is it about Oblivion that makes it so easy to enjoy? At first, the answer seems pretty obvious. Oblivion is kind of hilarious, but it's also just serious enough to warrant extended periods of attention. I mean, look what happens as soon as you press New Game. The player is greeted with a very rooted and gritty cinematic, displaying sweeping views of a marching army of evil, face to face with the epitome of safety and beauty, the gorgeous Imperial City, all whilst being serenaded by Patrick Stewart. The intro is then promptly cut off and the player comes face to face with, well, see for yourself. I forget about this transition every time I play, and every single time I can't help but burst into laughter. This sums up the majority of gameplay pretty well. The player will be questing, exploring, thieving, murdering, whatever, and then suddenly,
2 of the afternoon watch and all's well.
Oblivion happens. Out of the player's control, and if we're being honest, probably out of the developer's control as well, since most of these things were not intended, something outrageous will just happen.
Hey, come on now! There's no need to get violent!
Stop right there, criminals!
Now, this is obviously massively appealing.
I see you. Settle this peacefully. Someone's been murdered. I
But I wasn't satisfied with that answer. The unintended humor in Oblivion is amazing.
Something I can help you with. Move along.
But I felt that there must be more to it than that. Every time I boot up Oblivion, I can't help but have a big stupid grin on my face. Something about the beauty, mixed with the aged combat and never-ending questbook, draws the player into a broader-than-life experience. Oblivion is like one of those people who you can't help but be happy around, and to play the game with a frown feels almost disrespectful. NPCs are funny and lovable.
Is your last warning. Get out, or I'll call the guards and have you arrested. I welcome you to my humble home, stranger.
And the stories you'll get dragged into are the same. So I got to thinking about Oblivion's DNA, and I came up with a few broad strokes. The world, the quest design, and finally, the RPG and role-playing mechanics. We'll begin with the world. Dawn's beauty. Tamriel. In Oblivion, players have the privilege of exploring Cyrodiil, a lush and flourishing land home to a decaying and withered empire. Oblivion's art style emulates a vibrant painting brought to life by the brushstrokes of a caring artist. The almost cartoonish style allows room for immersion while also bringing such a joyful playfulness to the title. And at the end of the day, that's really what this game is, joyful. So cheers to the artists. The game looks exactly how it feels. As we explore the world, I'd like you to think about this game as an empty canvas. Video games are an art form, an outlet for creative expression. This is true for developers who are actively creating a game, but it should also be true for the player as well. Good developers will create a game that behaves as a canvas for the player to paint on themselves. When playing through an RPG, every decision made by the player should pull together a story. What path did the player take? Which weapon did they choose to use? Which dialogue options did they use in certain situations? Every minute decision by the player is a splash of ink upon the canvas. Oblivion allows the player to not only make unique decisions in gameplay, but a complete understanding of the lore and knowledge of what occurs in the game and quest lines allows for the player to curtail extraordinary experiences for themselves to play through. It allows the player to develop a character they fall in love with, a character with an identity. Oblivion allows the player to express themselves, a similarity I found in all of the titles I return to annually. Before our 15th playthrough of any mainline Elder Scrolls game, there seemed to be a surprise around every corner, and Oblivion does not fall short in this regard. The land of Cyrodiil is not only gorgeous, but is also inhabited by interesting characters and landmarks. Oblivion's world space is populated with locations that are actually interesting to explore. They will have you wondering about their histories and stories. They aren't just set pieces, but genuine places with secrets to uncover. This, paired with the fact that Cyrodiil is brimming with amazing quests, makes the environment feel as alive as you are. Everywhere the player travels, something is happening and people's lives are being lived out. Most importantly though, when exploring Cyrodiil, the land transforms. This is fairly commonplace in most games. I mean, even a game as simple as Minecraft has different biomes to look around in, but Cyrodiil doesn't ever get stale. As I played Oblivion again these last few days, I found myself enthralled by the cascading golden hills of the Gold Coast, attempting to catch a breath of fresh air while traversing the Westweald, and jumping over muddy patches of road in the southern reaches of Blackwood. Oblivion has a way of taking hold of the player, and forcing them out of reality and into its world, a world which allows every location to know its place and to tell a story. Oblivion's vibrant and full world may as well be bleak and empty if there is nothing to do within it. So next, I'd like to talk a little bit about Oblivion's questing. Most quests in Oblivion can be split into 3 separate categories. These categories being main and faction quest lines, side quest lines, and single side quests. These 3 categories sum up just about any open world game for that matter, and follow a pretty cut and cold content and writing scheme throughout the industry. In most modern RPGs, the main quests and faction quests get the best writing and most interesting content. Side quest chains get decent writing and content, and single side quests are often boiled down to fetch quests. Oblivion, though, does things a little bit differently. Almost every quest has an interesting story to follow. They'll likely contain main characters and various schisms. Don't get me wrong, Oblivion does have fetch quests, though they are almost always interesting in some way, and are still fun to spend valuable playtime on, especially if you're role-playing a specific character. This unique questing formula holds hands with the quality world building we spoke of earlier, like cheese and marinara sauce. Jeez, it's so stupid. Let me paint you a picture. You're a fairly low-level character, a mercenary for hire, traveling down to Leyawiin from Cheydinhal on the hunt for work. The day is seeping into night, and as the sky blackens, the dirt does too. You're getting closer to Blackwood, closer to the swamps. Coming up on the left is an inn, and rather than journey in the night, you decide to sleep until morning. Upon entering the inn, you see a curious-looking elf in the corner, a mage by the look of his robes. You talk to the unusual man over a flagon of ale, and he tells you that he's been run out of his research by some monsters. He's not willing to talk about his work, but he'll pay you to retrieve his notes from a nearby cave. So, at dawn, you set off, and fight through the cave, Making some gold on the side never hurts, and some fighting to sharpen your mind before entering the swamps would take off the edge. At the end of the cave, you find a light shimmering in the darkness. What looks to be a bright sky blue stones are lighting up the otherwise black cave. Being the nosy traveler that you are, you immerse yourself headfirst into the elf's notes, and find that the stone you are standing next to may be the very first evidence of naturally grown Welkin stones, and could possibly be an age-transforming discovery. You return the notes to the elf, get paid, and continue on your way. This is an experience I had while playing, and is unique to Oblivion. This fetch quest felt impactful. It carried my journey forward and added a new chapter to my character's story. Afterwards, I went into as many Ayleid ruins as I saw because my character had learned of the money to be made from mages upon delivery of interesting artifacts. I didn't just grab X item from the cave for the elf, or deliver 15 iron ore to Schmudge the smith. I had what could be a transformative experience depending on your playstyle. Maybe this quest in particular could have had such an impact on your character that they began pursuing magic. And to bring this one example even further, as I began exploring more Ayleid ruins, I happened upon an ancient statue. After selling it to a vendor, I was contacted by Umbacano, a collector, and was thrown into one of the most well-known and fun side quest chains in Oblivion, which I won't speak about further to avoid spoilers. What I'm trying to say with all of this is that Oblivion's quests have a reason to be there. They can always have an active effect on your playthrough if you'd like them to. And that's what Bethesda games are all about. Bethesda has never made games with life-altering main stories like The Witcher or The Last of Us. Rather, they focus on player agency. The story's impact is up to you. While role-playing, the game spurs us into asking questions like, how does my character feel about that? Did that change the way they feel about their goals? What do I want to do with my life now? Can I afford Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch? But seriously, this focus on player agency is what makes games like Skyrim and Oblivion such memorable titles for so many people, and I think that it is what vastly contributes to why Oblivion is so easy to enjoy. Now, I feel like I don't even need to talk about the main quest, faction, or DLC content, since Oblivion is so widely renowned to have some of the most fun in any Elder Scrolls title, and I definitely don't want to wander into spoiler territory. What I will say, though, is that they make you work to feel important. Rewards don't ever just fall into your lap. This is because the player isn't given priority in the world. They are treated like just another person. Every guild has you complete often menial tasks that actually allow you to be a specific character in the world. Someone who isn't a great mage or a fighter yet and hasn't spread their fame around. Are you new to the Fighters Guild? Well, get used to helping crazy old ladies obsessed with rats and solving neighborly disputes. Are you an aspiring mage? Well, I hope you like traveling all over Cyrodiil to do busy work for people who feel they're superior to you, and others who are too infatuated with their own self-frivolity that solving their problems feels like nothing but a waste of time. Are you an assassin? Well, guess what? Kill people. No grand conspiracies to murder world leaders just yet. A thief? Go steal things. It's what we do. Oblivion's quest agency is phenomenal. It creates an experience that allows the player to seamlessly integrate an ever-altering story into the gameplay itself, and not just via imagination.
All means, I would have paid any amount to be rid of those watching eyes, always watching me, but never again! I'm free!
Now, obviously, many of my points here hinge on a particularly important theme: role-playing. So let's talk about it. Now, I'm stepping out of the kiddie pool with this one, so I'd like to preface this last piece with a few things. First of all, I don't think that there's a 100% end-all, be-all, best way to do anything, especially when it comes to any form of expression or leisure, which is what gaming is to most of us. I'm not about to go all Morrow Boomer on you and declare that I know how to reach entertainment supremacy. Please play games however you want to play them. Play games in whatever way brings a smile to your face. That's why we're all here anyway. My only intention here is to attempt to bring something to you which I enjoy thoroughly. With that being said, role-playing. The oft-forgotten and avidly ignored aspect of RPGs. I say this because it's common and fun to step into a particular pre-made character and say something like, I am Geralt of Rivia. Similarly, it's easy to say, I am the Dragonborn, or I am the Champion of Cyrodiil, while playing Elder Scrolls games. But I believe that things get even more interesting when you take it a step further. Let's say you've named your character John. Pretty mid name, I'm sorry Johns out there, but let's roll with it. Now you can say, I am playing through the eyes of John, the Dragonborn. This simple alteration of perspective changes everything. And I've got a little secret for you. It's the kind of gameplay these games were built around. That's right, so before I go off the deep end, let's take a look at what I mean, starting with the character creator. Boom, you're in the world of Oblivion. You hit new game moments ago and are now slightly anxious about demons and old men. You go through the character creator and created an elegant wood elf, and off you go. But stop right there. Who is this wood elf?
Till help arrives.
Help? What makes you think help will get here before more of those... I told you to keep out of our way.
Well, as you fight into the dungeon, you realize, my character is an archer because arrows go and he was born under the shadow sign because invisibility seems dope. I've created the GigaChad class.
Really? I would never have guessed.
And now I'm in the open world.
Oh! Ow! Ow!
This is all good fun, and GigaChad Wood Elf will bring you on many fun adventures.
He can help us. He must help us.
But what was the game really making available to us in this intro? Once you start a new playthrough and you get to mold the face of the character you want to play, you then move on to choose their birth sign, and what skills they are good and bad with. Now, I implore you, write a little story here. Before you launch Oblivion, decide how you want to play. Will you be a warrior, an archer, a stealthy one perhaps, a mage, a thief, a combination? With that choice in mind, think of a race you've never played before, and I mean this next part. Go watch hours of Fudge Muppet content on that race. Study their homeland and culture, their religions and motivations. Find what piece interests you, and make a living person out of it. And most importantly, fall in love with them in the story that you're piecing together. Let's stick with our example from earlier. You want to play a wood elf. You watch some Fudge Muppet, find out that they're from Valenwood and are cannibals. Sweet. You find out that vegetation is important to them and they can be persecuted for eating it. Great, you say. I like plants and trees. They're pretty dope. This is easy. I also remember that I'm looking to play a stealth archer, and let's just say an assassin, because Dark Brotherhood fun. Now, how can I get my character's story to line up with the Imperial City prison where the game starts? Well, how about my character, who's quite an evil fella, 'cause assassin, betrayed the Green Pact in Valenwood by eating grass out of spite for familial trauma or some other thing. He's run out of his home country and ends up in Cyrodiil, barely escaping with his life. In Cyrodiil, he's hungry, breaks into someone's home for food, and gets caught. Now, when you start playing, you have a character, you have a motivation, and you have quests to play with someone who is part of the world, someone who existed before the prison. Let's continue. You choose the Shadowstone for the invisible attribute. What can we make that mean? Well, we already know that we're going to play the Dark Brotherhood, and the Dark Brotherhood is governed by Sithis, the void and never-ending darkness himself. Maybe being born under the shadow and having the ability to be invisible drew our dear wood elf friend close to the void, and therefore Sithis. He began to lust after being unseen, to be part of the void. Now, our birth sign even contributes to our story. This intro was built around the player being able to do this, and when you take advantage of it, you can create some really unique playstyles. Go crazy with this. Devise character motivations and plans. Walk around. Hold opinions about things that aren't your own. If you're having trouble with this, refer back to Fudge Muppet on YouTube. They have countless character builds on their channel, which you can refer to and draw inspiration from for your own. Now, with our new characters, I'd like to give some roleplay advice, which again, doesn't need to be how you play, but I find it to be very fun. Try to play without fast travel. I know, I'll give you another moment. But Sir Schmib, I hear you say, how am I supposed to do all of my favorite questies without teleporting everywhere? I don't want to waste valuable playtime just running across the province. That's a valid point, so I'll shed some light on mine. I don't mean never fast travel. I just mean try not to, especially at the start of a new game. Traveling on foot from city to city in search of work is a definitive part of all of my Elder Scrolls playthroughs, and honestly, the most fun part too. When you play this way, you're not in Cyrodiil, ready to be across the province in just a few moments. You're in a specific place and city, in an immense province with a character that you created. How do they feel about this city? What would they like to do and accomplish here before moving on? Are there many locations nearby to plunder? And if you want to travel across the province, how can you plan for that? What quests can you do along the way? And what nearby cities are there to visit? It's in these moments, in between quests, that define a playthrough. And I mean that. When you slow down, all of the details in these games make themselves clear to you. Bethesda does this by building their games with a specific tone in mind, one that bolsters the world while keeping the player involved. Recently, I found an old Todd Howard Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and someone asked him about the importance of keeping a specific tone in their games, and how they kept it in mind without straying too far from it. Todd's response said it all. He wrote, "Great question, and one we debate here often. Tone equals world. What place would you want to explore? Why? Who would you be? What would you do? How does that pique your curiosity? How is that curiosity rewarded? We like mixing places with elements that you feel comfortable with or can relate to alongside the fantastical. With roleplay in mind, your story can unravel in ways you've never experienced before. My example about stopping in an inn earlier shows this. Unplanned adventures in gaming are what pave the road during faction and main story questing. In one of my older Oblivion playthroughs, I roleplayed an evil vampire character. On my travels in between Dark Brotherhood quests, I was forced into caves during the day to get out of the sun. This may seem annoying to certain people, but when I am fully following the character's story and allowing it to be at the forefront of my gameplay, hiding from the sunlight is an imperative element in his journey. I was forced into many caves that ended up being necromancers' lairs and even some vampire hideouts. Exploring these locations made it feel like my character was actively seeking out power from other mages and vampires. None of which would have occurred if I simply fast traveled to my next quest marker or even waited until night as soon as I got into the cave. Now, by the end of most of my playthroughs, I will be fast traveling, normally just to mop up the last few quests on a particular faction, but at the beginning, give it a try, see what kind of adventures you'll be dragged into when you play this way. Oblivion was made for role-playing. Its beautiful and intricate world houses an amplitude of interesting quests, and its janky edges, well, they're what round out the experience to be as enjoyable as it is. With that, I think I have my answer. Plain and simply, Oblivion is an incredibly fun game, no matter the angle that you come into it from. As soon as you sit down to play, a smile will be on your face, and throughout your playthrough, you can tell that player agency, you, were on the developers' minds. The gameplay isn't riddled with boring content that overpaid corpos decided would keep you playing for longer and spending more money. It is unapologetically itself, and I think that we all like it that way. I'm happy with my answer, but I'd love to hear your reasons as well. So let me know in the comments below why you think Oblivion is so enjoyable. I'll see you in the next one. Sir Schmib out.